Welcome back to another weather update, guys, and this one is absolutely crazy. If you love snow and you live in the South, this has to be a dream come true. We're talking about what will be at least a once in a decade, if not a once in a lifetime snowstorm, because we're talking about snow falling as far south that it will literally be snowing in the Gulf. So we're going to talk about amounts, timing, and everything you need to know about this crazy rare storm about to occur. Wanted to start with some of the active weather alerts in place, and you're seeing these pink colors, those indicating our winter storm warnings, which are in effect for portions of the Gulf coastline through Houston and into New Orleans. And one of the interesting things here is that in these locations, we have not seen winter storm warnings in effect. And you can see it at least 2 years, if not closer to 4 years. It's been a long time since those have been issued, but we've had an even longer wait since we've seen winter storm watches issued into the Florida Panhandle. In fact, we actually just got a winter storm warning out there too, but winter storm watches in that part of the country have not been issued in 4,000 days. That's about 11 years. So this tells you just how rare this event is, and we certainly do not see anything near this every day, not even every decade, in fact. Let me talk about why this is even possible, though, because you're probably thinking, if this is so rare, how is it even coming to fruition here? Well, we're looking at our cold air mass now, which has taken over the entire United States, and this is forcing not just cold air deep into the southern U.S., but it's making the jet stream compensate as well by forcing it to dive really far south. So in this setup, we're able to bring cold air and storm systems into the southern U.S. And I'll move this forward into our Tuesday. And what you're going to notice is some extra enhancement here. You see how those lines spread out a bit more? That's a wave of energy in the atmosphere. And as this pushes through the south and as the cold air continues to dive south, you have in this zone here, right here, the intersection you need for cold air and moisture to create a snowstorm. And that's exactly what we're going to see here on Tuesday and Wednesday. So let's take you to the track now, and I'll show you exactly where this is going to go and when it will go on the path through these areas. And what we're looking at here as we switch this over to our rain and precip, snow I should say, is precip spreading out across southeastern Texas. This is early Tuesday morning, and you can see snow falling in places like Houston, Texas here, and a decent bit of precip mixed in there as well. You're seeing those dark blue colors indicating some of the heavier stuff. This will continue during the day Tuesday to move into the New Orleans area as it cuts through Louisiana and Mississippi and Alabama Gulf coastlines. We're actually seeing snow in the Gulf of Mexico here too, which is insane. And as we get into Tuesday evening, our storm continues to move eastwards. We're now seeing snow move into the Florida Panhandle here, and as well, it spreads out across Georgia and even the Carolinas a little bit. But instead of taking a northwards turn up the coast, this thing is going to continue moving eastwards straight into the ocean. So while some snow does reach the Carolina coastlines, it is largely staying so far south that it is just the Gulf Shore for the most part that's going to get snow out of this. Literally so far south that major cities like Huntsville, Alabama, Atlanta, Georgia are actually too far north to really get in on the good snow here, which, speaking of, let's show you some of the expectations for snow totals. And you can see just how far south this is. Suppression is what we call it when that colder air forces the precip much farther south. And what you're looking at here, in the Houston area, we may be seeing somewhere on the order of 3 to 4 inches of snowfall, a widespread 3 to 5. This is the American model, by the way, and there are the possibilities for higher snow totals in southern Louisiana, where we could see something on the order of 4 to 7 inches. So that's your American model. Here's the European model, not as aggressive. I believe this is more realistic, by the way, still spitting out 3 or 4 in the Houston area, 3 or 4 in New Orleans. And by the way, I got some of my facts here. This is impressive because Houston hasn't had a 4-inch snowfall since 1895. New Orleans hasn't even seen an inch since 1963. So it's been a long time since we've done anything near this. That's your forecast for the south central U.S. We can also take a look at the southeast, starting with the American model here, spitting out, again, that's a lot of snow. It's spitting out into the Gulf of Mexico here, but we're looking at what would be around an inch or two in Tallahassee and an inch or two on the immediate coastlines of South Carolina and North Carolina. Still, I do believe the European model is a little more realistic here, and what we're seeing is still about an inch or two in the Tallahassee area. Broad, we'll call it about 2 to 4 inches, riding through southern Georgia, up the Carolina coastline, where amounts drop off to about 2 inches. So A really significant storm, one that we do not see very often at all, of course. And it will be incredible watching this play out and the pictures that will come in. Things like, again, heavy snow falling straight into the Gulf of Mexico. I'm sure we're going to see some snowy palm tree pictures too. So get ready to watch this one, as we're going to see something that none of us in the country have seen in a very long time. The other big story in our weather headlines, of course, is the cold. And the coldest weather this winter, and likely in the past few winters, is here now. And what you're looking at are the temperature anomalies, the departure from normal across the U.S. And you can see just how much of the country, as we begin Monday, is going to be well below average. In some areas, we're going to be talking about on the order of 30 to 40 degrees below our averages, especially as we move into Tuesday here. You can see an even larger chunk of the country falling below average. Basically, the entire U.S. here will be colder than average. I mean, there really isn't one spot other than maybe Miami that will be warmer than average to start off Tuesday. That cold air mass continues to spread out as we move into the afternoon and evening on Tuesday, that at least across the eastern U.S. But by Wednesday, while the coldest weather is setting in across the eastern U.S., we are quickly seeing recovery as milder temps show up in the north central U.S. And by Thursday, we're seeing the worst of the cold diminish even in the east, as the rest of the country slowly gets closer to average. And here we are by Friday morning, still cold, especially if you're in the east or the south, but certainly not to the Arctic levels that we're going to be seeing here at the beginning of the week. We can also take a look at the wind chill, which is going to be a huge factor in and of itself. And if we take a look at some of those values to begin Monday morning, we're seeing some astonishing numbers here, 40 to 50 degrees below zero, the feels like temperatures. Moving this forward into Tuesday, of course, since we're recording this on Monday, you'll still notice that wind chills are going to be largely 10 to 30 below zero, a good chunk of the central U.S., north central especially. And as we head into Wednesday, that cold air continues to move eastwards with the anomalies, and that wind chill, that's really going to be a huge factor in our weather for the Northeast on Wednesday and Thursday as well. But the recovery begins to show up heading into Friday. Now, before we leave this topic, I'm also going to show you what we're going to be looking at in the longer range here, because the rest of the month is going to be pretty interesting. And here's our cold air mass, but what you're going to notice is that moves out pretty quickly. That's our Arctic air there. It does not last super long, and as we get later into the week here, you're going to see it begins to retreat back into Canada. We're still going to have a couple shots of colder air that develop and come in, but they're not going to be Arctic. They're going to be more polar in nature, so not quite as cold. Here we are now. This is January 25th, so the upcoming weekend. What we're going to begin to see is a little more ridge development. At least it tries to show up here in the southeast. We're going to see some ridging out here in the west as well. And what we're going to be noticing is still a very active pattern, but not the same kind of cold pattern we've seen, as some ridges and troughs progressively make their way across the country. And as we get into February, here's how it looks. Beginning to show up a more classic La Nina, where you have those milder temps out here, and you have your colder air coming in from the northwest, but not quite getting in across much of the country. So some signs that February is going to be warmer than average for a good chunk of the U.S. And of course, we'll be watching that and providing you updates right here as always. So we'll wrap up the video there. Of course, this week is going to be very active in terms of the snow and the cold, but as we get later into the week, we are going to see a little bit of a lull in some of the activity, at least temporarily. So we'll look forward to, some thawing and better conditions ahead. If you have any questions, of course, always drop them in the comments here. Let me know where you're watching from. Like and subscribe. And of course, if you got anything else that comes up, you can always find me elsewhere at Tucker Weather. And we'll see you here next time.